So this happened.
My name is Linda McMahon, and I am the chair of the America First Policy Institute. I'm perhaps one of the few people who's been privileged to call Donald Trump a colleague and a boss, but he's also a friend.
This person, Linda McMahon, the wife of,
The accusations by former employee Janelle Grant against McMahon and another former WWE executive are detailed and explicit. Some so graphic we've chosen not to share them. Among those we can, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Ms. Grant, including pornographic content he recorded with other men. And McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Ms. Grant. A spokesperson for McMahon told U.S. news outlets the lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will vigorously defend himself.
Has a new role. She has been tapped to lead the Department of Education.
Trump saying, "It is my great honor to announce that Linda McMahon, former administrator of the Small Business Administration, will be the United States Secretary of Education." He says for the past 4 years as the chair of the board at the America First Policy Institute, Linda has been a fierce advocate for parents' rights, working hard at both AFPI and America First Works to achieve universal school choice in 12 states, giving children the opportunity to receive an excellent education, regardless of zip code or outcome or income. As Secretary of Education, Linda will fight tirelessly to expand choice to every state in America and empower parents to make the best education decisions for their families.
Look, while this statement sounds rosy, do not be fooled. Linda McMahon has no experience as a teacher aside from being certified to teach French, but she'd marry young and thus she wouldn't have to really teach, so she abandoned the field. She's had cushy roles that money can pay for, like being on the board of regents, board of trustees, blah, 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 blah. So here's the thing, okay? She has a student center named after her. Something money can buy, right? Another seat she held was on the Connecticut State Board of Education. She resigned when she tried to run for Senate. Now, the topic of children's safety has now come to the forefront with McMahon.
As far as McMahon being so shocked and surprised at all this, we go way back, for example, when one of these people, this Mel Phillips, was, when we were doing a taping in Allentown or Hamburg, we're in a parking lot. There have been people who come forward who caught him with an 11-year-old boy having sex in a car. And this fellow's had a reputation for many years, and not only has he remained with the organization, even though this was brought to the attention of the McMahons, but this guy's flourished because he's been with the organization for a lot of years. There's been talk for a long time, and it's no secret that McMahon is trying to say that he's shocked by this all.
And it involves one of the names you just heard, Melvin Phillips from CNN. The suit alleges Vince McMahon, her husband, the WWE and TKO Group Holdings, the league's parent company, knowingly allowed employee Phillips to use his position as ringside announcer to sexually exploit children. Wrestling Inc. wrote of the allegations, pointing to Pat Patterson, who served as the head of wrestling ops, his right hand, Terry Garvin, and the announcer, Melvin Phillips Jr., who worked under Garvin. The outlet reported Garvin and Patterson used a casting couch-style culture while enabling Melvin Phillips Jr. to use his position to groom and molest underage ring boys, is what they called them. From the New York Post in March of '92, McMahon once told a writer he fired Phillips, but per the writer's piece, it felt like McMahon knew Phillips's relationship with kids was, quote, peculiar and unnatural. Oh, McMahon would sue the Post for that article for defamation, though they never disputed his account of the conversation. Pretty eye-opening. Wrestling journalist David Bixenspan, who I reached out for comment, wrote in September of '93, the FBI had a videotape of Phillips Jr. doing what was alleged by his accusers. Okay. In a separate memo, the FBI disregarded the tape because they perceived there to be too many alternate angles. The suit was filed in October in Maryland on behalf of 5 anonymous accusers who claimed to be between the ages of about 12 to 13 and 15 when meeting Phillips Jr. Each accuser says they suffer mental and emotional abuse because of him. The key here, as New York Magazine's Matt Steeb, hope I said that correctly. I'm sure I did say it incorrectly. Points out is the suit claims the McMahons, Vince and Linda, had knowledge of who Phillips was when it comes to his shortcomings and alleged conduct. Phillips would pass away in 2012. Business Insider, led by Bixen, spanned in the piece, wrote Phillips would be fired, then rehired 6 weeks later in 1988. That would lead one to say, what are we doing here? And why he was rehired, well, it came with the stipulation that he stop abusing children at work. Oh, great. He would be fired in 1990 and never return. From Insider, a review of hundreds of pages of court records, Freedom of Information Act requests, more than half a dozen interviews, would indicate that while the McMahons publicly expressed shock and concern over the alleged abuse allegations, they actually tolerated them for years. The piece continues. Once the scandal broke, they paid off one of Phillips's accusers in an apparent effort to bring him into the fold, only to fire him and withdraw support after the glare of the spotlights had faded. So, when Linda McMahon worked in the Trump cabinet previously, running the Small Business Administration, the outlet Axios, who Jonathan Swan, I believe, used to work for, they received a leak of the vetting file on her. And let me tell you something, what is pretty eye-opening. On the third page, as I stifled through it, a red flag is listed. And it's titled WWE's Alleged Culture of Sexual Abuse, meaning they knew all of this, alas, it was never brought to the forefront in her confirmation hearings. Incredible. One source of Bixen spans told him, quote, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. The source suspected that Vince and Linda McMahon, quote, clearly knew what was going on, but really did nothing to stop it. There was not a damn thing we could do about it. To this day, the WWE, the McMahons, they deny all wrongdoing in the matter. Thus, after leaving the first Trump administration and prior to her recent nom, Linda McMahon led a pro-Trump super PAC, and let me tell you something, it had boatloads of money. NBC News reports she donated more than $21 million to help Trump's campaign this election cycle, more than $20 million to another PAC called the Make America Great Again Inc. Super PAC, and another $937,000 plus to his campaign and affiliated joint fundraising committee. That figure, if you want to put it in perspective, ranks third on the donations list behind Elon Musk, who gave about $120 million, and Timothy Mellon, who gave about $150 million. So she is in the upper echelon. Whatever she wants, she will get. And we have also seen this with a lot of people who have given millions of dollars to Donald Trump's campaign, that they now have cabinet positions and cushy roles within the administration. For her duties, let's also not forget, we heard terms such as school choice, specifically in Trump's statement of McMahon. So what does it mean? Primarily, it's private school vouchers and those sort of programs. From ABC News, Trump's backing of the program would, quote, allow a student allotment of public education funds to be transferred to non-public schooling options, including private schools or homeschooling. The AP would contribute. The Education Department also plays an important regulatory role in services for students, ranging from those with disabilities to low-income and homeless kids. Importantly, Congress would likely have to act to establish a federal universal school choice program funded by taxpayers dollars. Thus, it is no shock that Linda McMahon was tapped by Donald Trump and his team to carry out their orders in the fight to privatize education. And why do they do this? Let's not be stupid about it. It's quite simple. While it is framed as a helping hand lent to needy families, vouchers benefit the wealthy most of all, the HELP report found, leaving queer, rural, low-income, disabled, and BIPOC youth and families vulnerable to discrimination, since private schools can curate their student populations, wrote education reporter Nadra Niddle. Niddle would also add, one consequence of vouchers has been the exacerbation of segregation. Following the Brown versus Board ruling, vouchers enabled white families who oppose integrated schools to send their children to private institutions, colloquially known as segregation academies. Wow. In the process, integrated public schools lost funding, a pattern that persists today. One piece of analysis that Niddle found was that, in the state of Louisiana, families that were using these programs and sent their kids to private schools were not some of the less fortunate. They had a household that made over $200,000. That's insane. That's insane. That a great majority, some 90%, I believe, would not only be affluent, but also use this to their advantage. More from Niddle. Affluent students are attending private school with subsidized tuition thanks to a select group of billionaires, and you are not going to be surprised at all on who is leading the effort. The Bradley Foundation, the DeVos Family Foundation, the Koch Foundation, Richard Uihlein of Uihlein, Bernard Marcus, Home Depot, Jeff Yass. I believe he's an investor in TikTok as well, is he not? There are certain political action committees that work to remove state lawmakers who are against private school vouchers. This is why y'all need to pay attention on who you're voting for, who you're supporting, and if you are supporting that person, why you should be against this. They would also align on the following: Donald Trump's plan for education. The platform pushes for increasing parents' rights, championing school prayer, and withholding federal funding to schools that engage in gender indoctrination or promote critical race theory. Oh my God, the boogeyman. So, Paul Waldman would put it rather bluntly. Like everything else in Trump's vision for government, he wants the department McMahon would lead to be more corrupt, more ideologically right-wing, and less capable of doing the job it is supposed to do. He also notes that they are going to be targeting universities. So if you want a synopsis of Linda McMahon and why Donald Trump picked her, you now know why.